Joe Biden himself is not a great candidate because he just is prone to all of these just weird, awkward gaffes, which can be fixed and placated a little bit by PR and your advising staff, all that kind of stuff. But all in all, he brings nothing new. Hello, everyone. My name is JD.
And this is Logan.
And welcome to the WireTap. And we want to thank you for joining us today. Joe Biden there's been a lot of news about him. Of course, you've had the Ukraine situation with his son, Hunter Biden, being on the board of a Russian energy company, along with many other Democrats, children, seems to be. But we want to talk a little bit about his finances today. And this is a piece that comes from the New York Times via MSN. And it says, "We're asking you to dig deep. Biden seeks to steady finances as allies fret." This was published just 9 hours ago as of time of recording. And it says, Steve Ricchetti, one of Joseph R. Biden Jr.'s closest confidants, is reaching out to wary donors to shore up support. The Biden presidential campaign is watching costs. Some of staff members are sleeping at the homes of volunteers and facing criticism for spending on chartered jets. Mr. Biden's team is also urging allies to redouble fundraising efforts before the calendar turns to 2020, and he has fewer days to devote to the money trail. So according to this, Biden is behind everyone, and we've discussed this a little bit before. This was mentioned in passing before, but this is becoming something that, as each day passes, becomes much more important and prevalent and concerning if you're a supporter of Biden. Biden only has $9 million, $8.9 million, according to CNBC. So we're rounding up a little bit here.
It's definitely concerning. If you're Joe Biden, you're the man that's been henpecked so far throughout the entire thing, and we're only at the beginning of this election process, and you're already running out of money.
And according to numerous sources who've reported on this, and the federal election offices, to where we mentioned whenever we were talking about the CNN debate, is whenever we talked about this, how Biden had to turn in his funding and everything. About an hour after the debate, or so, an hour or two after the debate was over, that was due. And according to those reports, Bernie Sanders has $33.7 million on hand, and Elizabeth Warren has $25.7. And the one that's concerning there, obviously, for Biden is Elizabeth Warren. And there's been conflicting reporting on who is the front runner, which we've discussed before. Some of them see Elizabeth Warren really as the front runner, just given her momentum, that she just doesn't have the number as of right now. But in terms of momentum and the rate at which she's gaining support, her money and everything, that she is basically the front runner at the moment, which I think, if you're going to take all those factors into play, is probably not too far off of an analysis.
Yeah.
Joe Biden is still riding the wave of support that he received at the beginning of his campaign and at the beginning of his run. He's still riding that wave of poll number support and donations, everything from the beginning. Nothing from these last couple of weeks and months.
He's been 30% plus or minus a few points since April.
Yeah, for this whole time. And he's still there. So there's just a consistent, constant base there. The problem with that is that there's no growth. And there's been no growth as the field of candidates has become more whittled down, and will continue to become more whittled down as time goes on, as candidates don't make debates and they start to fall away and end their campaigns. You would think that those bottom dwellers of the campaign and the race would likely go to a Joe Biden. You would think that, because he is kind of the
Middle of the road.
The middle of the road. I mean, he's like the honorary candidate. You know, you get an honorary degree from university. It's like, oh, well, of course he's going to be there, and he'll be the honorary nominee, so to speak. He gets the nomination without really any much of a fight. But you have the candidates like Elizabeth Warren and like Bernie Sanders, who obviously didn't get that memo and aren't playing by that same set of rules.
Yeah. You're seeing a lot of candidates right now. They're struggling to keep their campaign alive. I'm not even going to list all the ones that are still in there, but the only ones that are still in there truly fighting with a possible chance, though it's small, I guess, is Kamala Harris and maybe Cory Booker if I'm really stretching far. And Harris, she's just now attempting to pull publicity stunts.
Yes.
She's done the thing with Twitter and Trump.
Mm-hmm.
This weekend, she's refused to go to South Carolina.
Yeah.
Because they honored Trump in some way.
Yeah, they had an honorary award or something like that, and, you know, she refused to show up.
That's just a media soundbite for the weekend.
And this is a graphic from New York Times, and it has a bit of a comparison between all of the candidates, at least the top 10, of their contributions, the individual contributions for the first, second, third quarter. Obviously, fourth quarter hasn't happened yet because that's this latter part of the year.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to note the way that this is all fluctuated and the money, the levels of funding between each of the candidates. First quarter, I'll just go through like the first 6 here. First quarter, Bernie Sanders led. Second place was Kamala Harris. Third place, Beto O'Rourke. Fourth place, Pete Buttigieg. Fifth place, Elizabeth Warren. Sixth place, Amy Klobuchar. Seventh, Cory Booker. Second quarter, because this is whenever Biden comes in.
Yeah.
Biden wasn't. All right, we're back after that little interruption. Anyway, as I was saying, Biden obviously, didn't come in until the second quarter. So whenever he starts, according to this graphic, he is second place behind Pete Buttigieg. So Buttigieg jumped from fourth place to first place, second quarter contributions, it says. Warren jumped from fifth place to third place. Sanders took a dive from first to fourth. Harris went from second to fifth. Booker and Klobuchar just traded places in the sixth and seventh slots.
And second quarter would have been the first debate would have happened within that quarter, probably. Because it was a June or July debate, I believe.
Yes. So
and
second quarter, I guess, would have been April through, June-ish?
Yeah.
Yes, because then third quarter would have been July through September. So, and good old Roberto O'Rourke took a dive from third place to eighth place. Now, the third quarter, which is numbers that just came out a couple of weeks ago, with the end of September, Sanders is back on top at third place. Elizabeth Warren jumped from third place to second place. Pete Buttigieg went from first place to third place. Biden went from second to fourth. Harris stayed even keel at fifth place. Andrew Yang came up from the depths at sixth place. He came from the depths of ninth and 10th place to eighth place, or sixth place rather. Cory Booker went back down to seventh place. And Klobuchar is at eighth place. At the very bottom in the third quarter is Roberto O'Rourke, good old Beto. And so then Andrew Yang is sixth. He came up from ninth, 10th place in the second quarter. So just to recap, third quarter you have Sanders, Warren, Buttigieg. Biden is fourth. He's behind Buttigieg too in terms of funding, and Kamala Harris is closely behind Biden in terms of contributions as well. And then you have all the losers and the misfits from the rest of the campaigns. So it's interesting to note also, this comes from the same piece that we were discussing earlier from the New York Times, from MSNBC. And it talks about how Joe Biden has went back on his promise to not take money from super PACs.
Ooh.
It says on Thursday, the Biden campaign delivered the clearest signal yet that it will do whatever it takes to survive financially, abandoning Mr. Biden's long-held opposition to a super PAC independent of the campaign and clearing the way for donors to give unlimited sums in support of him. Biden advisors cited continuing attacks from President Trump for the reversal.
Well,
Pardon me.
It'll be the day when it comes out that Elizabeth Warren has been getting money from super PACs
Now,
and Wall Street.
You might remember, if you go back to the video that we did after the CNN debate, to where there was a quote, and I ran across this quote again while researching for this show, in that it said that these continued attacks by Donald Trump are what are really hurting us. These continued attacks, this just absolutely mean behavior, this mean-spirited behavior by Donald Trump is soiling our campaign.
Is he not running an opposite campaign of yours?
For one, he's running an opposition campaign. And mean-spirited, false, slanderous attacks are something that, quite frankly, you should know all about, because that's what you've been running for the last 4 years, since 2015, since Donald Trump was a candidate. You ought to know all about smear campaigns. You ought to know all about mean-spirited discourse and conversation. And you also had better know that that is not enough to sink a man's campaign, because guess what? It didn't work for you. So what makes you think that Donald Trump's offhand tweets and or comments about somebody from an opposing political party are enough to totally sink his campaign and drive him into the lower echelons of the funding and the donations, the fundraising levels for the campaign?
And you can't even say that it's because Donald Trump wants to launch an investigation into Joe Biden and his dealings in Ukraine, because you did the exact thing to Trump with Russia.
Yeah. There's no one-to-one comparison here with that. And it's just another way to take a shot, I guess, at Trump. It's just another way to kind of push the blame off. But what really is to blame here? Well, I would say the fact that Joe Biden, quite frankly, is just not a good candidate.
No.
Take his policies aside. Take what he believes aside, which we often do, at least whenever we're analyzing this kind of stuff from the Democrats. We know that their policies are reprehensible and horrible. That goes without saying. But we're just analyzing it from a purely political and strategic perspective. But Joe Biden himself is not a great candidate, because he just is prone to all of these just weird, awkward gaffes, which can be fixed and placated a little bit by PR and your advising staff, all that kind of stuff. But all in all, he brings nothing new.
He's an absolute, no race-related thing here, a piece of white bread.
Yeah.
He is plain. He is vanilla. He is a politician, 100%. He's been there since the 80s.
Yeah. Even earlier.
70s, probably.
I think the 70s. He's been in Washington forever, and he is just, he's a blank sheet of paper. There's nothing that he offers that is any different than what has been offered before. Because what is he running off of? He's running off the promise that he is a third term for Obama, basically. Which we all saw how that went whenever Hillary Clinton did that same thing. She said, if you want a third term of Obama, vote for me.
Arf, arf.
Well, yeah, that didn't work. Because the American people did not want a third term of Obama. And I think I think a lot of them didn't want a second term of Obama. But
Mitt Romney, we learned that choice.
yeah, we learned the mistake there. Put up two absolute stinkers of a candidate in a row between John McCain and Mitt Romney. And even as a candidate, at the time, I had many reservations about Donald Trump because I don't think that until we get far away from this today, will we really be able to look at and analyze honestly what he was for the 2016 campaign and how he changed how politics is viewed in terms of who is fit for candidacy and for office and how campaigns are carried out.
Yeah.
And I think that the big thing that might have been overlooked in all this is how social media plays a role. Because social media was a huge
This was
part.
the first election where it was the biggest part in 2016.
Yeah.
Because it had been around.
It had been in the periphery.
Obama, he didn't use it like Trump does.
Obama didn't have near the I don't want to say the following, but like the impact,
Yeah.
I guess.
And
His voice did not seem to carry and resonate the same way that Trump's does and did during his campaign. And part of that might be the message itself. But also, it is interesting how we often look at media and Hollywood and all of these things as being liberal breeding grounds, and oftentimes they are, but it's strange that Donald Trump was really, I think, the first one on a mass scale to use social media to his advantage to put him firmly on the map and escalate him to, the candidacy, the nomination, and ultimately the presidency.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's continued to use it obviously since he's been there, but it really is interesting that paradox, because you wouldn't think that would be true, especially considering I don't even know what percentage it is. I mean, it's a super majority of Twitter users are leftist or liberal leaning.
Yeah. And I mean, with Twitter, it's a whole different game. Usually, if you're going to make a statement or something, you put out a statement, and then it's pushed through the media, and you hear it on the nightly news. With Twitter, Trump can tweet constantly. He can do it whenever he wants throughout the day, and that message is constantly reaching people who might follow him.
Mm-hmm.
And as well, the media constantly reports on his tweets.
And you see all these things that the Democrat candidates are trying to do, bringing this back here, that, you had like the stuff that AOC does, the live, is it Instagram, Facebook, the live streaming on social media platforms. I think it's Instagram.
Roberto O'Rourke attempts
Yeah, you've had Beto O'Rourke trying to make cheeseburgers in pathetic fashion. You've had Elizabeth Warren with her, let me go get a beer, while she's live streaming. All of these kind of hokey, gimmicky tactics at working social media. And Trump has not had to do that, and yet he's far more successful than any of them on social media.
Yeah.
And Biden does not have near the social media presence that Trump does.
Biden has a social media presence?
I mean, yeah. Biden has virtually no social media presence, and to his credit, Bernie Sanders actually has a bit of a social media presence. I mean, obviously it's not as large-reaching and impactful as Donald Trump, whether that be positive or negative. But Bernie Sanders, to his credit, does have social media following. I think he has some 9.8 million that follow him. mean, Donald Trump, I don't even know what he's up to now. I think it's like 60 million, something like that. I don't know what the exact number is. I haven't looked in a while. But that's the way that this kind of stuff is moving. And tying this back to Joe Biden and his money problems is that Joe Biden, ultimately what it is that he doesn't offer any new ideas. He doesn't offer anything that you've never heard of before. Because quite frankly, I think that he kind of, I don't want to say expects, because I don't think he's arrogant in the same way that Hillary Clinton was. No. Hillary Clinton was arrogant in the way that she truly believed that she deserved the nomination with minimal effort, and that she deserved to win, that it was her turn to be president, like you're on the swing set on the playground. And I mean, I genuinely believe that that's how she thought. I don't think that Biden is arrogant necessarily in that way, but I feel like that he believes that his time that he's had in Washington and the fact that he was vice president to Obama does owe him something. Yeah. Does owe him a little easier path to the nomination, and that he should not have to get down in the mud. He should be able to kind of stay above the fray of the rest of the candidates. And he should not have to get down in the mud and fight like you did in 2016 among the Republicans.
His donors and a lot of, I think, the candidates and the people within the party are beginning to realize that the world maybe doesn't want Joe Biden, and maybe that they're not accepting him because he's so plain. He's just an absolute politician. He's a rerun of the Obama administration and of the past ideas. And people are starting to realize they don't want that.
And you know what? I mean, me personally, you know what? If Joe Biden doesn't offer any new ideas, then fantastic. Because the ideas that he has are progressive enough.
Yeah.
But why are they rejecting Joe Biden?
Because they're not progressive enough.
Because they're not progressive enough, exactly. They want to go further left. Bernie Sanders is closer to what they want, but he is just extremely ineloquent at presenting. If you were able to take the smooth talking, because even Barack Obama is becoming increasingly more moderate, which is frightening, because we're only 4 years. Really calendar years, only 3 years away from Obama. And in that time, you've had a radical shift to the left since then. But even Obama is becoming increasingly more moderate than the candidates and what the base is calling for. And if you could take the smooth talking of Obama and combine it with the ideas of Bernie Sanders, you would have the ideal candidate on the Democratic side, and you just have to hope and pray that they never find that.
Yeah.
But
it's probably in Beto O'Rourke, somewhere within him.
Somewhere within him, they're going to keep grooming him, because after all, he is born to run.
He's born to be president.
He's born to be president, as he sits at near the bottom of the rest of the field. But we want to thank you all for joining us on this edition of the WireTap. Make sure to go back, look at our old episodes, look at stuff that we've done in the past. Whether you're listening on YouTube or SoundCloud, come check out what we're doing on either platform. And we thank you for whatever way you support us. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment down below on ideas that you want to see in the future that we do. And for Logan, I am JD. Goodbye, God bless, and we will see you in the next episode.